Hey monkeys, how you doing? Damian Keyes here. Welcome to today's video, which is 10 tips on how to rehearse your band. Now, every band I've ever seen rehearses in a different way, but so many bands fall into the same category, which is to turn up late with a bunch of tinnies, have a chat, turn up, do a bit of playing, do a bit of jamming, mess around, and then fuck off home without having really achieved anything. So I've been in loads and loads of rehearsals and just thought we are wasting time. So I want to do a video on how you can get the most out of rehearsing your bands. So come with me on a journey and let's do a top 10 tips to get the most out of your band rehearsal. Tip 10, before we do anything else at all, what is the point in this rehearsal? What are we trying to achieve? Is this rehearsal about rehearsing a set? Is it about getting tight? Is it about intros and endings? Is it about songwriting? What is it that you are going into the rehearsal room for, so that we can make every single decision about that? Rather than just going in and doing a little bit of jamming, a bit of writing, a bit of practicing, let's try a bit of this. Let's actually focus and have different rehearsals for different goals and targets. This way you will not only get the most out of rehearsing, but you will not believe how much you can actually get done in a 2 to 3 hour rehearsal. Now, if you're doing that once, twice, or 3 times a week, imagine how far you're going to come within a space of a month, or 10 weeks, or 6 months. Tip 9, plan your rehearsal. So taking it a step further, we know what this rehearsal is going to be about, but now we're going to start to organize it and divide up the time. And it sounds a little bit businessy and less creative, but one thing is, when you're a musician and you're in a rehearsal or a recording studio, time goes very, very fast. So if you want to maximize your time, then make the decisions before you go in. Which songs do you need to rehearse, and why do you need to rehearse them, and how you are going to rehearse them? You need to know what it is you're going to do in that rehearsal in minute detail, so you can see by the end of it if you have achieved your goal. Tip 8, be on time and be ready to go with the gear that you need. I know this sounds really obvious, but I cannot explain how many times I've been to a rehearsal for a band and someone in the band's turned up late, making shit excuses about being a little bit late because of something. It's just poor planning and it's not good enough. And so when you get there, your job is to get in and get set up as quickly as possible. And I hate it when I'm seeing guitarists fiddling with pedals, or keyboard players that have taken half their keyboard shit apart, or drummers who are taking the hi-hat off and then putting it on, and then taking it off, and then putting it on, and taking it off, and then putting it on. It's time wasting. So you need to get in with the gear that you need and get ready to achieve something in that rehearsal as fast as possible. Tip 7, stop practicing your mistakes. Now, if something is not working, stop the song and work on that section of the song. I hate watching bands go through an entire song and say, middle section wasn't very good. You're wasting time. What you're doing is you are practicing your mistakes, and that is not good enough. So what I would suggest is, if there is a segment of the song which isn't working, or someone carries on making mistakes, hand up in the air, stop the band and say, that's the bit we need to work on. And then what I would do is I would loop that segment again and again and again until it feels right. Then I would go back to the beginning of the song and then I would do it again. If we get there and we make more mistakes again, I'd stop the band. I would stop the band 1,000 times in a rehearsal if it needs to be done. This is not about just going through the songs and going through the motions, and that is what most bands do. This is about perfecting the art of what you are doing. So if something's not right, stop it. Straight away, decide what that is, and then fix it, and then carry on. Tip 6, use a click. Don't hate me, I know you're not gonna like this. Use a click, why not? I'm not saying use a click on a gig, I'm not saying that, but if you are in a rehearsal room and you are practicing, in order to get tight, why not use a metronome? All this bullshit about, oh, it takes away from the creative energy, man. Yeah, fair enough, it does on a gig, but if you are good enough musicians to play to a click, it will pull everyone together, because it is one thing holding the band together, and you will get tighter because of it. I just don't think there's an excuse. I would always want bands to play with a click in rehearsal when they are trying to get the band tighter. Point 5. Appoint a rehearsal leader, a captain, a moderator of that rehearsal. It doesn't have to be the same person every single week if that's something you want to change, but someone who can keep that rehearsal on track. It can moderate it, and we can say, look, we're getting off track, we're starting to lose focus, or we're wasting time, or we need to work on this, that, and the other, or we're not hitting our targets. Just someone who can keep it on track and keep it focused so that you can get the most amount done in a rehearsal. Tip 4, keep the levels down. So many bands in rehearsal rooms are practicing at levels and it's crazy loud, and all you're doing is blasting over the top of everyone else. It's like a Motorhead concert and you can't hear any mistakes. You can't hear what's going on. It's much, much harder to play at a quieter level than it is at a loud level. So rehearse it and get it tight at a quiet level, and I promise you, when you turn it up, it will sound bigger and it will sound more massive. Keep those levels down and make it sound awesome. Tip 3, a bit of an obvious one, but something I'm guaranteeing that 90% of you don't do. Record your rehearsal. Nowadays, we are in the age of technology, even on a phone. If it's audio or visual, you can do that on a phone. You can record the entire 2 or 3 hour rehearsal with a GoPro. And I think this makes such a difference because you're not just doing it for the archives, you're doing it to then go back into it later and see what's working and what isn't. Because you can see it with a fresh pair of eyes out of a sweaty, sticky rehearsal room where it's all loud and in your face. You can actually watch it on a screen and you can see what is working, what is not, and what can be tweaked. So record every single rehearsal and make sure, more importantly, don't just record it for the sake of it, record every single rehearsal and then watch it back and make notes. And then before the next rehearsal, actually email the rest of the guys in the band and say, here's some notes that I made from the last rehearsal. This is some stuff I think we should work on. Tip 2, take notes during the rehearsal. Now, yes, we're going to record it. Yes, we're going to watch it back, but there will be decisions made on the spot that need to be documented. So at the end of the rehearsal, we can chat about what we've done and what's been decided. And that way, even in the week, we can email all the rest of the band and say, here is what's happened, here's what we decided, and here's what's next. It's this kind of minutes meeting and documenting that will allow you to progress to the next level every single rehearsal, and it'll stop you from going in the following week and thinking, what the fuck did we do last week? Oh well, let's just start all over again. And that's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back mentality, and we haven't got time for that. And point 1, rehearse like it's a gig. The way that you front a band. I know it feels stupid if you're in a rehearsal room and the singer's going, are you ready? But if you want to get good at gigging, you gig. If you want to get good at rehearsing, you rehearse. But why can't you make each rehearsal feel more like a gig? Because the amount of times musicians will say to me, oh, I tell you what though, I know I'm not moving around now, but I tell you what, you fucking hell, you should see me on stage. I go crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I watch them do a gig and the first 20 seconds, they just go absolutely bonkers. And then the rest of the gig, they stand still. And I'm like, what happened to going bonkers? And they were like, did you not see me? I went crazy for 20 seconds. So if you want to get good on stage, then practice it in the rehearsal room. Anything you want to happen on that stage, you practice beforehand and you don't leave it to chance. So that's my top 10 tips on how to rehearse a band, and I guarantee if you implement all of those 10 tips into rehearsing your band, in a month's time, you'll be tighter, stronger, you'll have achieved more. So implement this and take the tinnies out of the rehearsal room. You are there to work. Anything you need, hit me up. I'd love it if you like this video. I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube. If you want to chat to me, I'm around all of the time. Just hit me up on Twitter. I am there to help you. Have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow.